What's going on, moviegoers, movie lovers? Mr. Filmstock here, and welcome to the Mr. Filmstock podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're watching this as a video podcast, if you're listening to this as a video podcast, thank you so much for listening. In this episode, we are going to be talking about the company Warner Brothers Discovery, the multinational mass media and entertainment conglomerate headquartered in New York City. It was founded April 8th, 2022, almost 2 years ago, and it was formed from the merger of Warner Media of AT&T and Discovery Inc., or as you know as the Discovery Channel. And the company's properties are divided into 9 business units, if you can just imagine that, consisting of the flagship Warner Brothers film and television studios, DC Comics home box office, which is HBO, Cinemax, the Magnolia Network as well, and the U.S. Networks Group, and namely Discovery, Scripps Network, Turner Broadcasting, CNN International, TNT, TBS, Motor Trend, Discovery Plus, the CW Television Food Network, you name it, it is there. And the key people is the president and CEO, David Zaslav. And the reason I am touching on this topic in this episode of my podcast is because the aspect of what this company is doing is atrocious and crazy, and it just needs to be, something needs to be done about it, because what they're doing to film, television, the aspect of the entertainment industry is not really working so well for them. Now, on Wednesday, August 7th, 2024, at 4:30 p.m., they had their quarterly earnings call, or their Q2 earnings call. Now, it's been rumored, and these are all rumors. These are not facts. These are not forwarded, and these are just rumors of news outlets, entertainment websites, that Zaslav may be positioning the WBD, Warner Brothers Discovery, for a future merger. And it's done so in a way where significant damage has already been done to this company, and it's absolutely crazy to think. Not only that, the film Batgirl has been shelved. It's been a completed film and it's been shelved. Coyote vs. Acme has been shelved. These 2 films that I'm speaking of right now are finished and are shelved and are put in the so-called Warner Brothers vault for the movie-going audience not to see. Evidently, Zaslav stated that the movies weren't good and nobody will see the light of day of it, and let's just put it away and let it die down and write it off as tax purposes. What the hell? That's what I have to say. What the hell is going on with that company, or this company? They've canceled 8 shows in 2024, significantly reducing HBO Max's state of original programming while introducing a price hike to coincide with the premiere of Game of Thrones House of the Dragon. Now, the most streaming platforms that have axed the most shows from 2020 to 2023, the year-to-date progression, meaning 2024 as well, is HBO Max at 26.9%. Broadcast television is close with 26.6%, and then it's Disney Plus at 21%, Paramount at 16, Hulu at 15, Netflix at 10, Peacock at 10, Prime Video at 9, and Apple TV Plus at 4.9%. This is by the Luminant and Variety Intelligent Platform Analysis. That's the source of it, and it's just crazy to think. Now, also, the company WBD has also pushed showrunners for shorter seasons in order to save money, with uncertainty about renewals, forcing these writers, or these writer rooms, to develop unethical, nuanced story arcs with season finales that can serve as series finales if needed. That has been the go-to now for what TV shows are. They're not doing season finales anymore. All shows don't know if they're going to get renewed anymore, and they're doing series finales. They have seasons of shows where they're 2 seasons, and the second season finale is now the series finale. Back in the day, when a show had plus 5 seasons of a series, you didn't have that end until season 8 or season 9, and then it was a series finale. Shows were going on 10 years strong. I mean, the only shows currently, or that were on TV, that I know that served 10 plus years and that are over are Supernatural, which had 15 years, and The Goldbergs, which had 10 years. The closest, biggest show right now on television is Law and Order SVU and NCIS, who are really pushing the boundaries of prominent forward seasons and story arcs. But not only that, they kind of began doing different aspects where they also laid off 1,000 Warner Brothers Discovery employees 1 week after a round of layoffs of CNN, as their own compensation rose about 27%, close to $50 million in 2023. This is interesting, and this is very, very different. This is a sad thing that's happening to this company. Even so, where in the past, I believe within the past year, from I want to say March of 2023 up until August of 2024, Zaslav wanted to get rid of Turner Classic Movies, TCM, the channel that showcases the best of the old Hollywood films. And the interesting thing about that was Steven Spielberg, Martin Scorsese, and Paul Thomas Anderson got together and had a discussion with Zaslav and said, don't do that because that's not good. Nobody's going to be able to watch any more classic TV shows, which is rightfully so. And this guy is really ruining the industry. Not the industry, but just this aspect of this company alone. Warner Brothers was the top tier film industry company to work for, whether it be movies or television. And now insiders are also saying that actors are telling their friends and directors are telling their friends not to work for Warner Brothers Discovery because you have no idea what's going to happen if your prominent film will be shelved or not, because David Zaslav doesn't think that it's a good reason to do so. Not only that, the reason also is that this company lost a massive close to $10 billion to $11 billion by losing in their second quarter alone in their television revenue stream, because they lost out on the NBA, which is the Inside the NBA and the aspects of what you saw on TNT and TBS. The linear value of what Discovery and Warner Media have done over the past 20 years is atrocious. It's just going to show like what can happen now in a company like this, that it's not really going to stay. It's like, why is he writing things off as taxes? Yes, you can do that. If the movie doesn't turn a profit, you can write it off as a tax. There have been rumors, and it's been said on social media, that fans of Game of Thrones House of the Dragon were very, very disappointed with the season 2 finale. And it's come out that one of the creators or the writers has said that the reason it was is because they told us to save money for season 3. What? Why? Just write it out. What is happening? What is going on? I personally would love to run Warner Brothers Discovery, get everything back on track. I mean, $9.1 billion at its network division to align with book value of its linear television business with uncertain advertising is really ridiculous to think about. And it's reported that another $2.1 billion of pre-tax acquisition related to certain intangibles, but they didn't elaborate on what those things were. It is a complicated moment for Warner Brothers Discovery, with the stock down about 70% from the merger, and investors calling for action like breaking the company up once again. If you lose $10 billion in a quarter, but just your television revenue streaming alone, you cancel shows, you're telling, writers in the writer's room to, instead of doing a season finale, try and make it a series finale. But then your stock is down 70%. Then you have mergers and investors calling and saying, let's split up the company again. Something is going on in the company that's not right. And if no one is opening their eyes in the industry and going to do something about it, something needs to be done. This guy, I don't think he knows anything about movies, television, entertainment, or whatever it is. God forbid they had to reboot the DC aspect in comics and studios for it. And thank God James Gunn and Peter Safran are running it, because can you imagine David Zaslav running DC right now? He would obliterate it to the ground. I have high hopes for what DC Studios has in store with James Gunn and Peter Safran. They have a vision. They are rebooting the entire DC universe. Let's put aside, release the Snyder cut. Zack Snyder didn't get his due, blah, 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 whatever. It's time to move on. We'll move on from that shit. Let's see what happens, and let's see what James Gunn can do and what he will do with Peter Safran running DC Studios. Because Superman is going to be the first film, which comes out in July of 2025, and he wrote and directed it. And James Gunn has a great vision for comic books, for great vision for pop culture, music, ideas, storytelling. He knows how to tell a story. I mean, with what he did with Dawn of the Dead was fantastic with the remake back in 2004, I want to say. It's just great. So I really have high hopes for what he can do. And maybe, just maybe, hypothetically, James Gunn should buy Warner Brothers Discovery and run it. Because I'm pretty sure it would be much better the way than David Zaslav is running. Because right now, James Gunn's boss is David Zaslav. Now, the write-downs were the biggest news in the second quarter earnings report, which on the plus side saw a nice bump in the streaming ad revenue. Because now we know streaming costs the same as cable did back 20 years ago. And the whole idea for streaming was cutting the cord of cable, because cable was so goddamn expensive. And now streaming is becoming an asset where it's on par with cable like it was 20 years ago. The idea and mind of them putting out the aspect of raising prices is crazy. Every single quarter, not every single year, every single quarter or monthly, streaming services are now raising their prices. And WB, Warner Brothers Discovery, HBO Max, whatever you want to call it, I really don't care. They're the highest right now at close to $21.99, if I'm not mistaken. But you have your ad tier program, your no ad tier program, your no advertising, no commercials, where if you don't want commercials or anything, it's like $22.99 for some streaming services. Or if you want with the ads, it's $7.99. Like, the whole concept for streaming was no commercials and low pricing. But now it's high prices with commercials if you want to pay more. They have us by the throat, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm telling you that right now. Streaming services are not what they used to be, and even so, the entertainment industry is not what it used to be, and I'm saying that rightfully so. And Warner Brothers Discovery is that kind of company in that area where you can say, like, you really need to evaluate what can happen and what will happen for a company to fail and fall. And this company is failing, and this company is falling at a fast pace. Faster than you can even imagine than a Mach 3 fighter jet or whatever the hell you want to call it. It's absolutely atrocious. Now, I mean, when you have a 70% stock drop since its merger, but then you kind of say, like, oh, our theatrical revenue has rose up to 19%, excluding the foreign world markets and primarily due to the high home entertainment revenue. Because now with streaming, and this is connecting to the point of this episode as well, and I've talked about streaming immensely on every single thing that I mentioned on my social media accounts, when I talk about it on certain episodes of my podcast. The aspect of streaming is relevant. But here's the thing. If a movie comes out 1 month, 3 months later, maybe 2 months later, or a month after, it's already out on streaming. So nobody goes to see it at the movie theaters or the box office because they don't want to spend $15+ A family of 5 closely costs about $80 total at the movies right now. You add concessions, that's another $40. So you're looking at $100 and plus some dollars. Even for 2 people, it's friggin' insane. And I do want to say that. But with this year of 2024, Warner Brothers Discovery kind of got some money back because they had Dune Part 2 and Godzilla Kong the New Empire, which were big, profitable films for them in the month of March of 2024 for Warner Brothers Discovery. The network's revenue and profit both fell, though, by 8% respectively, and $5.2 billion and nearly $2 billion. Now, the distribution revenue, if you didn't know, also fell 8%, primarily driven by the 9% decrease in domestic linear pay for TV subscribers. Advertising revenue also decreased by 9%, and which was also driven by domestic networks' audience decline of 13% and the soft advertising market that is put out in the US, and how kind of advertisers run their ads during commercial breaks for that big system of the company. Content revenue but rose 5%, primarily driven by the timing of the third-party licensing deals. So total Warner Brothers revenue of $9.7 billion was down actually 6%. So you round it up, it's $10 billion. It's absolutely crazy, as I said. And, kind of the thing of people are calling out David Zaslav, fire David Zaslav, don't stream Max. Rightfully so on Twitter and everything else. I'm not going to call that platform anything else because that's what it's called. Whatever the new name of it is absolutely ridiculous. I want to call it Twitter, X, Twix. I don't give a shit what you call it, but Twitter is the rightful name for that platform. And people on Twitter are hashtagging, don't stream Max, fire David Zaslav. Well, I mean, you could have an idea here of what to do with it, It's just really, really crazy. The company has 34,300 employees as of 2024, and it's a big conglomerate. The aspect of big conglomerates running industries now is crazy. I mean, who would think AT&T and Discovery Inc. would create Warner Brothers Discovery along with Warner Media and Warner Brothers Films and Television? I mean, I don't even know where to start with it. But you heard way back during the pandemic in 2020, and rightfully so, up until the merger concluded, was that this was happening. This was going to happen, but it shouldn't have happened. But somehow it did happen. And with David Zaslav coming in and just taking over things, I mean, he became CEO and president of Discovery Inc. in 2006 and focused on the company's core networks programming and kind of expanding it into its reach into digital media, which was still a big thing, but slowly dying as well. In 2018, he oversaw Discovery's acquisition of Scripps Network Interactive, which owned networks such as Food Network, HGTV, and DIY Network for $14.6 billion. The combined company was renamed Discovery Inc. Prior to Discovery, Zaslav worked at NBC Universal, where he helped develop and launch the cable channels CNBC and MSNBC. So this is why Food Network, HGTV, the Cooking Channel, and DIY or Magnolia people don't really watch anymore, because it's not good. Not many things are on those channels anymore. When you get HBO Max or whatever they want to rebrand it, they're rebranding, they're raising prices ridiculously. They are putting those episodes on there. Say you watch an episode of Guy Fieri's Grocery Games, a new episode. If you miss out on it, it's on that streaming service a couple days later, or a few hours later for that matter, or, rightfully so, a half hour to an hour later. But, just get something else, get something where you have a DVR recorded, because it's slowly coming a fact where streaming services and what Warner Brothers Media, Discovery, whatever you want to call it, is doing, it's not really working for streaming, and they're going to kill themselves. And that's what it is. The company itself, the CEO of any company, is the one that destroys the company within itself. And it's sad to see. I would love to take over Warner Brothers Discovery, give it a kick in the ass, and, green light things that need to be green lit, have a whole company renewal of it. Like I said, with what I stated before with James Gunn and Peter Safran with DC Comics and DC Studios, they know what they're doing. I have high hopes for what they can do. They're probably going to be saving Warner Brothers Discovery out of the rut, which is sad to say, because they should be doing things on their own. And with the beginnings of how certain operations are going, I really don't see that happening, but they will bring in the money for Warner Brothers Discovery, the box office, and, James Gunn and Peter Safran really do know what to and how to work things. Now, in June of 2023, Warner Brothers Discovery did undergo a round of layoffs, affecting around 100 employees in the U.S. Networks division, most notably including multiple Turner Classic Movies executives, who were part of the company for a long time. They also announced plans to place the channel under Cartoon Network in certain areas, and it also reported that Warner Brothers were preparing a deal to sell half of the public music and catalog of Warner Brothers, basically, which states that the close to for around $500 million, they were going to sell published music in their catalog. Amid over concerns of the future of TCM, in which I stated a few minutes ago in this episode, Scorsese, Spielberg, and Paul Thomas Anderson met with Zaslav, and on June 23rd, it was announced that the channel would be placed under Warner Brothers Pictures Group's heads, Mike DeLuca and Pamela Abdi, who both affirmed that the cultural significance of TCM and pledged to keep its programming untouched and protected, which is a fantastic thing. You get big head names, directors like Scorsese and Spielberg and Paul Thomas Anderson coming at you just to figure things out and put it under Warner Brothers Pictures. Phenomenal thing they did. They need to do more things. More directors, more studios need to come in and say, hey, we're going to buy you out. The rumor of what I've heard is that Zaslav wants to sell Coyote vs. Acme for $80 million or more to another studio for them to release it. Like I said, he put it in the vault and he's waiting for everything to die down. No. You're not going to have it. It's not going to do that. I would release Coyote vs. Acme. I would release Batgirl. Let the audience see if it's a good movie or a bad movie or not. You lose box office revenue for those films. Okay, you took the loss. Then you write it off as a tax. Like, it's absolutely doing things backwards. And I wouldn't be surprised if some underlining things are happening behind the scenes that nobody knows about, that only the head honcho knows about. Other news is that in July of 2024, the NBA officially announced new media rights agreements with Disney, NBC Universal, and Prime Video beginning in 2025 and 26 season, ending a nearly 36-year association between the league and TNT. In a way, WB Discovery had attempted to invoke a condition in its contract after realizing this, allowing it to match offers made by competitors, but the league argued that it did not sufficiently match Amazon's offer. Warner Brothers Discovery, of course, threatened to take legal action over the agreement, claiming that the NBA had grossly misinterpreted their contractual rights. Excuse me? Warner Brothers Discovery threatened to take legal action over the agreement because you claim that they misinterpreted contractual rights? You're really putting yourself in the sand here, and the quicksand moment, because you've been doing so for the past couple of years with your contractual rights, writing things off, not giving anything green lights. Yes, okay, cast and crew being paid for what they did, but their vision, their idea, their hard work not being shown on the big screen for movie-going audience to see. It's absolutely atrocious. Now, and I'm going to go back to this as well, Warner Brothers Discovery reported that it had lost $10 billion in the second quarter of 2024, related to continued losses from its direct-to-consumer segment and devaluation of its linear TV assets. Yes, because you don't know how to run a goddamn company. That's the problem. If you knew how to run a company, great, fine, it's great, okay. Now the assets for what Warner Brothers Discovery has is Warner Brothers Entertainment, DC Studios, Warner Brothers Theater Ventures, Warner Brothers Discovery, Home Entertainment, Turner Entertainment, and Water Tower Music, Warner Brothers Discovery Networks, Warner Brothers Discovery International, CNN Worldwide, HBO or Home Box Office, TNT Sports, and DC Entertainment. They have a big board of directors. They have a lot of executives as well. But for whatever is going on, whatever's happening, these executives and these boards of directors aren't realizing what's actually happening in this company. Now, as I stated, the big man is the president and CEO is David Zaslav. Pamela Abdi and Michael DeLuca are the co-chair and the CEO of Warner Brothers Motion Picture Group. And then you have other names here that I won't name, but then Peter Safran and James Gunn are the co-chairman and CEO of DC Studios. So what is going to happen? What can happen with this company? Like, it's going to be crazy. 2023 on has not been a good year for this company at all. You see the aspect of what can happen, what will happen. People were upset that Zack Snyder got fired from WB. They brought in James Gunn and producer Peter Safran, who would serve as the co-CEOs and co-chairman of DC Films, which is now rebranded to DC Studios, as I stated. And they signed a 4-year deal that will oversee the production of films, television, and animation under the DC label. So 4 years out, you'll see films from Gunn and then produced by Peter Safran and vice versa. The pair will report directly. Yes, I'm saying this, and listen to this carefully. Peter Safran and James Gunn will report directly to David Zaslav, while also working alongside, but independently, with other members of the studio. Is that a good thing? I don't think it is. If James Gunn and Peter Safran are doing their own thing, let them do their own thing. We don't need another third head of whatever it is to have David Zaslav put his input into a comic book movie that probably he doesn't know anything about. At all. At all. I mean, it's crazy to think that this is happening, but when Gunn and Safran are the two biggest names you have running a comic book division, movies, television, animation as well, and maybe, just maybe, video games, but that's a here nor there topic. You have to say to yourself, okay, is this a good thing or not? Also, James Gunn will oversee creative development on DC projects, while Safran will oversee the business aspect to it, which is great because you have the aspect of someone working on the development side, projects, filmmaking, writing things, and then you have someone on the business aspect, the money, the producing, where to do it, what to do, which is the right way to run a company. If you're running it, you have two people. For example, Walt Disney and Roy Disney back in the day. Walt Disney was the visionary. Roy Disney was the business part of it all. So it just goes hand in hand. Now, during certain different aspects of what, this kind of company is doing, they have been known for being the biggest start of the industry era. It was founded in 1923. Warner Brothers was founded in 1923 by 4 brothers, Harry, Albert, Sam, and Jack Warner. And the company established itself as a leader in the American film industry before diversifying into animation, television, and video games, and was considered one of the big 5 major American film studios, as well as the member of the MPA, or the Motion Picture Association. The biggest name of Warner Brothers is Jack Warner, who was the big Hollywood exec back in the day, and he oversaw a lot of things in the industry of film and knew what it was like. That's not what you have anymore with the entertainment industry and what this entertainment studio and this film company is. It's been around since April of 1923. It's 101 years ago. So mostly your big 5 companies, your big 5 studios are all over 100 years old. You had Universal Pictures, which was founded in 1912, April 1912. Paramount Pictures, May of 1912. Warner Brothers Pictures, which was April of 1923. New Line Cinema, which is 1967. Walt Disney Pictures, which is 1923. 20th Century Studios, 1935. Columbia Pictures in 1924, and TriStar Pictures, which is 1982. Now, these are the studio parents, the conglomerates, which then have the major film studio unit and the secondary unit. So I will break this down for most of you who do not understand the lingo of the entertainment industry and the major movie studios. Now, I will start with Warner Brothers because that's what the topic is of this episode. Warner Brothers Entertainment, or Warner Brothers Discovery. Their major film studio unit is Warner Brothers Pictures. Their secondary unit is New Line Cinema. So if that sounds familiar, you have New Line Cinema. It's because it's the house that Freddy saved. And, they did the Nightmare on Elm Street films. Not only that, you have other underlining subdivisions. You have Castle Rock Entertainment, which was founded back in 1987 by Rob Reiner, filmmaker Rob Reiner. And now you have NBC Universal, which is Comcast, whose major film studio is Universal Pictures. Paramount Pictures Corporation, which has really kind of merged off into whatever it is you want to call it, has Paramount Pictures, and it could be Skydance media as well. Walt Disney Studios, we know it's Walt Disney Pictures, and then 20th Century Studios, which was previously 20th Century Fox. After Disney bought it, it's now 20th Century Studios. And Sony Pictures, or the Sony Corporation, has Columbia Pictures and TriStar Pictures. And other than that, you also had past film studios. You had RKO Pictures, United Artists, MGM, which is Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, and like I said, 20th Century Fox. And then you have the mini major studios, Amazon MGM, Lionsgate Studios, A24, and Styx Entertainment. So the whole aspect of film studio conglomerations and what Warner Brothers started back in 1923 and being one of the big 5 major film studios really sets a point and standard where it's like, okay, what does this company do to have to go back to the heyday of what, they really were about? Because the way this company is being run right now, it's not the way it should be run. It's not the way it should be going, because it will falter. It will fail. The only question is, when will it fail and when will it falter? You have the aspect and the idea of saying that this will be, written off in a merger. Okay, when will that merger happen? And who will Warner Brothers merge with? Where will the catalog go? Where will the divisions go? How many people will lose their jobs? Something needs to be seen, redone in that area, that department, and someone needs to say something about it. Someone behind the scenes needs to come forward and say, listen, this is what's going on with him, how he's running the company. I mean, like I said, maybe James Gunn and Peter Safran should run it and, buy it out. But maybe it is a lot of money to do so, because nowadays it costs a lot of money to gain rights and corporations for a certain conglomerate of an entertainment entity as big as Warner Brothers. I wouldn't be talking about Warner Brothers in my podcast episode, or any podcast episode, or any social media aspect, or talking to family and friends about it, if I really didn't care about it. But I do care about it, because since the merger and what it's been doing, and you hear the stories and the rumors and the insiders news you hear on Deadline, Variety, things are not going well. Like, what is going on? Something needs to be seen. Release these movies that are shelved, Batgirl, Coyote versus Acme, and give funding and stop canceling shows that shouldn't be canceled, and pay your writers. You're not paying your writers. Yes, we had the strike back in 2023 with the actors and the writer strike, but if studios aren't paying the writers, what's the point? The writers are the backbone of how everything works in the industry. That's where the ideas come from. That's where the ideas flow from. And if you don't have the writers, you don't have the actors acting it out. You don't have directors directing a phenomenal script. You don't have directors winning Oscars because of the writer. The reason directors win Oscars is because of the writing. And the reason writers win for what they are is because they have an idea in their mind. They have a vision. They put it from pen to paper or on a screenwriting software. It's just crazy to think of what's going on right now. And there needs to be a shift in the paradigm where you say to yourself and wake up and open your eyes and like, something needs to be done. If nothing does happen, this is too late. We just missed the mark. But it begs the question, like, you lose $10 billion in the second quarter of a year when the year isn't over yet. Something is wrong, and that's eye-opening. If I was one of the shareholders, I would be worried too, because you're losing money, and if you keep raising prices, people are going to cancel the subscriptions for streaming. And if you don't put out good content, and if you're basking and if you're trying to bet on any color at the casino, if it's red or black, or making that 21 deal, and you're saying like, oh, no worries, we have a few things in store in the future. We have DC Studios, that'll make us money. James Gunn and Peter Safran, yeah, we're fine. No, it's not. You really need to evaluate everything. James Gunn and Peter Safran will kind of save Warner Brothers Discovery out of the hole, but how much out of the hole will they save it? I love James Gunn. I love Peter Safran. Those two have the brightest ideas ever in Hollywood, and I've been a fan of James Gunn since the early years of his filmmaking career, even when he was with Troma. So it's like, what does it take? What is it going to take to be done, and what will it take to change everything in this company? If I had the billions of dollars I wish I had, I would absolutely buy Warner Brothers Discovery and have a major overhaul and see every division really strive for greatness and what they are worth. Because that's what I want in an entertainment industry, in an entertainment business. I want to see a company do well. Yes, you have conglomerations. You have your ups and downs, but some companies have ups and downs to a point where it's like it's more down than up. If that stock market number doesn't rise, investors and shareholders will worry. Of course you'll worry. I mean, when you're down $10 billion and your revenue you think is up in 2023, their revenue was up $41 billion, but the operating income is down, the net income, the total assets, and the total equity is down. That's not good. That's not good at all. Something needs to be done at Warner Brothers Media Discovery, whatever you want to call it, and someone needs to really, really keep an eye on David Zaslav and his way of working in the industry of movies and TV, because if cast and crews, actors, actresses, filmmakers, gaffers, lighters, audio, sound designers, if they're not seeing their work come to fruition and happen, then that's a slap in the face, because you need to start doing things right. Stop putting money in your pocket and start putting money in the pockets of the creators and the people with the vision behind the studio who actually make you the money, and people who go see it at the box office, like me, who's a movie-going fan. Things need to change, and things need to be done, and hopefully it happens. And I hope, and I'm really hoping, that this podcast episode really gets out there to the people in the industry, to the workers, the filmmakers, the people who strive for, want to become great, want to make a movie, and want to do things for it, and just entertain and be that extrovert, be that writer, be that director who is like, okay, I like what this person's doing. Let's get it out there. And I'm hoping that this podcast episode is one of those episodes that makes the rounds everywhere. It gets heard. It gets seen, because something needs to be done at Warner Brothers Discovery, WBD. Because if it doesn't, it's going to be too late, and it's going to be merged with a company that will probably forget about every single thing. I mean, the company's properties are divided into 9 business units. That's insane, and that's a lot of things to have. So things need to change, or it will be the downfall of WB, and that downfall will be by only one man. And I'm not going to say his name, because I said his name too much in my podcast. All right, everyone, there you have it for this week's episode of the Mr. Film Stock Podcast, talking about Warner Brothers Discovery. If you're watching this as a video podcast, let me know in the comment section below what you thought about this episode. If I should talk more about movie studios, conglomerations, the industry, the entertainment industry. What do you think should happen? What should shift? What should change? If you're listening to this on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts, thank you so much for listening. I really, really do appreciate it. It's been a great experience. It's been a humbling experience. I love what I do. I love talking about topics, and it's just a fun thing to get my point across on certain aspects. And if it hits the mark with certain multinational media corporations out there, or if people are listening, who listens, who doesn't listen, because you never know. You might have that big name actor or that big name director, writer listening to your podcast, and you don't even know about it. And word of mouth is getting it out there. So I want to thank you all for tuning into this week's episode of the Mr. Film Stock Podcast. If you are checking this out on my YouTube channel, be sure you hit that subscribe button, click that notification bell. Let me know in the email or the comments what I should discuss. And if you're listening to this on Amazon or Spotify, thank you so much for listening. I'm Mr. Filmstock, and you've been listening to the Mr. Filmstock Podcast.